Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, February 18th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today, as usual, we have a great number of celebrations recalling Our Lady's intervention. The first stop is to Nuestra Señora del Rosario in Rota, Cádiz, Andalucía in Spain. So it's Our Lady of the Rosary. She is the patroness of the town of Rota. It's on the Atlantic Ocean. It's a coastal town in southern Spain. Her statue, which dates all the way back to the 1500s, is in a blue-tiled chapel in the parish church of Nuestra Señora del Rosario, right? So why do we celebrate it today? Because today is not the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. Well, in 1807, the city council ordered the statue to be carried in procession with the statue of Christ, right? They were suffering from a severe drought, and it happened that miraculously the rains came and saved the crops, right? The image was canonically crowned on the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary in 2003, right? We might ask ourselves, well, why was this, since when did they have this devotion? But we know that it's at least from the 1500s, right? That's what we know for sure, because the image is at least that old, and there's been many instances where she's intervened. Like in 1709, there was a terrible plague of grasshoppers that were eating all of the crops, and there was another, damages were caused from an invasion of the English and the Dutch. And what did they do? Well, each time they prayed to Our Lady, the patroness of the city, and they stopped, right? And so then it was really the big thing was that event in 1807, which took place today, February 18th. In Quetzalcoatl in León, Nicaragua, they celebrate Our Lady of the Remedies, Nuestra Señora de los Remedios. They celebrate the dedication of the Church of María Auxiliadora de la Trinidad in Sevilla, in Andalucía, Spain. That took place in 2006. Our good friend, the Abbot Orsini, tells us that they celebrate Our Lady of Laon in Reims in France. It gives us the year 500, and it says founded by Saint Remigius. Right? So what's the story here? Well, the shrine or chapel of Our Lady of Laon was erected into a cathedral and founded by Saint Remigius, the Archbishop of Reims, around the year 500, where he consecrated as his first bishop Saint Genebrand, his nephew. Right? We say that there was a number of miracles that were recorded there, and among them, we read that in the year 1395, there was seen on the steeple the picture of a crucifix, the wounds of which bled. Right? So yes, this is the present cathedral located in Léon, Picardy, France, the Léon Cathedral or Notre Dame Léon, was begun in about 1155 and completed in 1235. Built on the foundations of an earlier church consecrated in the year 800, which tells us that this is probably not the one dedicated and built by Saint Remigius. That was in 500, right? Last but not least, we also celebrate Madonna delle Grazie, Our Lady of Graces, in Genoa, in Italy. So at this town of Castellaro, or on the Castellaro Hill, rather, at a height of 130 meters above sea level, there is the Shrine of Our Lady of Grace, constructed on an old little pagan temple, right? So on February 18th, 1748, appearing with extraordinary splendor, Our Lady freed the city of Genoa from the Austrian soldiers that were threatening it. A very beautiful story. So again, that's what we're celebrating today throughout the world, in the Marian world, on February 18th. For today's reading from the Imitation of Mary by Alexander de Rouville, we continue with Book 2, Life and Virtues of the Blessed Virgin Mary, from the birth of her divine Son Jesus to his death. And today we consider chapter 26, entitled The Happiness of a Virtuous Family. Heaven beheld a sight truly worthy of it, when it gazed down on the Holy Family at Nazareth, and Jesus living with Mary and Joseph. What tranquility and unity must have ruled in a home where every virtue dwelt and all unregulated passions were absent. There, while Jesus progressed steadily in virtue, in wisdom and age and grace before God and men, that's Luke 2:52, Mary kept her eyes fixed upon him, so that she might become like this model. Joseph was no less careful to profit by the example of the mother and the son. In this home, everything was referred to God, everything done for him.
The simple presence of Jesus filled every heart with joy, and his divine word set every heart on fire. The submissiveness and obedience of Jesus filled Mary and Joseph with admiration and inspired in them a holy humility before God. God of holiness, there you were indeed worshipped in spirit and truth. That's John 4:24. How pleasing must have been the homage you received there. No one can think of that holy family without envying it. How wonderful it would be if every Christian family took lessons in such a school. If the love of God ruled in other families, as it did under the humble roof that sheltered Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, they too would enjoy order, peace, and harmony. Husband and wife would taste the innocent delights of marital union. Children would be raised to fear God. Servants would receive only example that was virtuous. There would be none of the disastrous effects of jealousy and dissension between husband and wife, none of the scandals so frequent today. Prosperity would not lead to a pomp and proud show, but would exercise a happy influence on the poor, and would be sanctified by gratitude and Christian moderation. A wise thrift would be respected, but the sordid hoarding inspired by avarice would be just as much shunned as the trappings of luxury. Adversity would not give rise to complaints and murmurings against God's providence, and he would be no less honored in time of need or simple sufficiency than in time of abundance or greatness. The head of the family would exercise his authority without being imperious or arrogant. The wife would agree with the attitudes of her husband and would exercise great care over her household. Both would have the consolation of seeing the growth of docile children who would in time walk the path of virtue. From such families, how much good would result for the whole society of the faithful? What lovable simplicity and way of life! What candor and innocence! What unity and love! What edification and marvelous fruits of holiness! How calmly the days would pass! And when the time had come to pay death the final tribute, we would willingly offer the sacrifice of our lives, because we would have the consolation of having lived in holiness and love of God.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed our Marian podcast. As St. John Paul II teaches us, from Mary we learn to love Christ, her Son, the Son of God. Through her intercession, may we grow ever closer to Him. We encourage you to share this with a loved one or friend and help spread our devotion to Mary. Thank you, and God bless.